Hello everyone. Today I am very excited to share with you some information that just blew me away. It has certainly caused me to rethink some important questions of what the sun and moon are. And that's why I love the flat earth. There are so many intelligent people out there exploring our true reality, and they are making some amazing discoveries. Sometimes these discoveries contradict our preconceptions, as happened here with me. So, for the last year, I've been seeing quite a few flat earth videos talking about the April 8th, 2024 eclipse across North America, and a lot of channels questioned whether it was actually the moon that eclipsed the sun. Honestly, I thought these flat earth claims about the moon were nonsense. Under the flat earth model, it only makes sense that as both the sun and moon travel on their respective paths between the tropics, that once in a while the sun and moon would connect, resulting in an eclipse where the moon is in front of the sun. That made sense to me. I truly didn't understand why flat earthers were arguing this point. But one key thing that I've learned since flat earth is not to hold on to your preconceptions and prejudices too tightly. Late last night, I watched this video from the channel Hanging on His Words. I'll have a link to his channel in the description. The gentleman with the beard who made the presentation is named Jeremy McGarry. Jeremy is a senior engineer and has 19 patents to his name. In short, Jeremy is going to present meticulous video evidence detailing why it's impossible that it was the moon that eclipsed the sun. And this presentation absolutely shocked me. The presentation is over 50 minutes long, and so I wanted to provide a quick summary of what Jeremy discovered. First, Jeremy, who lived in Erie, Pennsylvania, which was within the totality pathway of the 2024 eclipse, hooked up a time-lapse camera to his house that had a view of the pathways of both the sun and the moon. The camera was fixed to the house and did not move. For a couple of weeks, Jeremy filmed the paths of both the sun and the moon, and the trajectory of the paths of both the sun and the moon are the same on the camera. He spends quite a bit of time plotting these pathways. Here's what his time-lapse looked like. You can see how the pathway makes this arc in the sky. The sun expectedly rose higher up the camera each day, and the moon first dropped and then rose back up to the point that the moon fell on the same pathway as the sun. None of this falls outside mainstream arguments. At first glance, one might quickly say, well, that proves that it's the moon that's eclipsing the sun. I actually thought the same thing, and I thought that was where Jeremy was going with this presentation. I missed some of the initial discussion. But here's the problem. As detailed by Jeremy, the trajectory of the sun and the moon were supposed to be on the exact same pathway. And that's confirmed by the United States Naval Observatory as indicated here. But the trajectory of the object that passes in front of the sun during the 2024 eclipse is not on the same trajectory. In fact, it is substantially different. So different that it's impossible that it's a simple mistake. The diagram of the eclipse on the right side is how the eclipse should have happened. Instead, the object that passes in front of the sun comes from a different trajectory, from the bottom, as shown on the photograph on the left side. Left is actual, right is how it should have happened if it was indeed the moon. Do you see the differences in the angles? According to Jeremy, it's physically impossible that it was the moon in front of the sun. Here he is with a wooden model describing the issue again. The eclipse should have come from the right, with the sun and the moon on the same trajectory. Instead, the object that comes in front of the sun comes from the bottom, which debunks everything we thought we knew about the eclipse. Well, at least for me. I just find this presentation fascinating and hope you enjoy it as well. I'm curious what all of my truth-seeking friends think about this as well. Please comment and share your thoughts after you have watched the full presentation. Now, for the actual presentation. Enjoy.
Let's talk a little about the solar eclipse that happened on April 8th and what we were told was going to happen. So the locations and the trajectory path of the moon. So what is trajectory? I just grabbed the first one you Google. A trajectory is the path of a projectile or other moving body through space. I'm going to be focusing on trajectory a lot tonight because that's kind of the crux of what I'm going to be sharing here is the trajectory of the sun and moon through the sky versus what we saw passing in front of the sun. Okay. As you know, George already showed this. George Nuber from GeoTruth showed this back in January, or I believe is maybe a little bit more recently, but this is what the United States Naval Observatory website is still up today. You can go look at it. It's the 2024 April 8th solar eclipse. And if you notice right here, what they tell you, I'm not sure why they found it interesting to focus on this, but they even said all the way back to 648 BC that this was Zeus. Interesting why they would say that.
Really? Does it say that there?
Yeah.
I just enlarged the screen there.
Can you see what it says there? I'll read it.
Okay. No, yeah, just go ahead and read it.
Nothing there is beyond hope. Nothing can be sworn impossible. Nothing wonderful since Zeus, father of the Olympians, made night from midday, hiding the light of the shining sun, and sore fear came upon men. It's a Greek poet from 648 BC, quoted by our United States Naval Observatory.
Okay. No,
Why
no
would they do
coincidence
that?
there at all.
No coincidence.
Yeah. Gosh.
All right. So this is, again, directly from their website. You can see the path. I drew a line showing where Erie, Pennsylvania is. That's where I am right now. And there's another spot here, Jackson, Missouri, which I'll show you why I'm highlighting that too. But this is the path. If you can see my mouse, this is the path of the solar eclipse that happened. All right? We all know this. And
Path
a
of
little
totality, right? Yeah.
bit more about the path of it. And then here's a little GIF here that shows the path of the celestial body moving in front of the sun as it traveled across the sky. And now let's talk a little bit about the solar eclipse in Erie, Pennsylvania, because I'm going to share essentially my data that I collected in Erie. The maximum occurred at 3:18 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for those in the military, that's 15:18, and they'll mess with you a little bit here with different, the Zulu time and things like that. But essentially, it's 3:18 is when it happened for us.
Mm-hmm.
There is the lat and longitude finder. So when you know where Erie, Pennsylvania is, you can take this latitude, longitude, drop it into the United States Naval website, and it will tell you exactly when the eclipse begins, when totality begins, when the maximum eclipse is at its peak. And there again, there's their 1918, that's UTC time, they call it, but that is the same as 1518 or 318 Eastern Daylight Time. And then it tells you when it ends. So it starts about 1802, which is about 2 o'clock Erie time, and ends about 4:30. All right? So it's about an hour and 15 before the total eclipse and an hour and 15 minutes after. And this is, again, straight from the website of the United States Naval Observatory. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a little video from timeanddate.com that will tell you what you are going to see if you're standing in Erie looking up at the solar eclipse, and the red arrows are the trajectory of the celestial body passing in front of the sun. So let me see if this works here. Hopefully it does. I will try and get the website up here. Make this big screen. This is from timeanddate.com. They're going to tell you what you should expect to see. Okay. All right. Can you see that, Ken?
I can, yep.
All right, very good. So notice the trajectory on how it passes in front of the sun. Goes into total eclipse.
So it goes from like 5 to 11 type angle.
Yeah, and then it kind of moves off almost directly straight up, but more like 11:30, and it starts to move up.
Right.
So, and then by the time it reaches the top, it's almost going off like the top of the sun. So the trajectory, the path of that body moving across the sun, I'll let it play a little bit more here. You can kind of see. This is what they predicted in the animation that you would see. All right, so this is their prediction before the eclipse even happened. I'll show you what I actually collected. Let this play through here a little bit more. And then it goes off the top. All right. Let's start back to the show now. So you can see I drew the red arrows here. This will be kind of a common thing throughout here. The red arrows are the trajectory, the path that body is moving towards the sun. All right, which may seem a little strange now, but I'll try and do my best here to show you why I don't believe what passed in front of the sun was not the moon.
Okay.
All right, so this is me with my Nikon P1000 camera. I have my cell phone also mounted to it to take pictures. And I tested it on April 7th. And you can almost see here the roof of my neighbor's house. There's some of my trees. I am trying to show you that I am basically oriented with the horizon. I am not tilting my camera to give you a trajectory that's off center. The horizon is fixed with my camera. And many thanks again to George Nuber. I had a long conversation with him. He helped me set up my camera. I bought the tracker here. So there's a tracker that I can actually, you can see in my hand there, I've got the remote. You can move the camera so it keeps track, as you know, the sun and keeps moving across the sky. So you have to keep your camera moving with it and it'll track it. So many thanks to George for helping.
Yeah, shout out to George.
Yes,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. And he got me hooked up with the right filters and everything for being able to view it, get good pictures.
Nice.
All right. So this is some of the pictures that I took with my camera. So you saw what time and date said. They said that how you saw the trajectory. The trajectory that I actually saw with my camera was not exactly the same as theirs, but it was an animation, right? So it's pretty close. You could see this, whatever's coming across the sun was coming in, like you said, Ken, like about 5 o'clock and moving up towards like 11 o'clock. That's how you could kind of see it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the times, you know, right almost up before the total solar eclipse happened. And next slide here is, this is when we're going into total eclipse. And there's some red dots here. You can hear some people have shown pictures of, you know, what are these red dots? All right. I don't have a good answer for you on that. We'll let people decide what they think it is. But there's your solar eclipse. This is my camera. All these are my pictures. And then this is the diamond ring that everybody gets so excited about.
Yeah.
And I'll show you, hopefully this video works on the next slide, where my family got a little excited about it too, because my whole family was in Erie for the solar eclipse event. So we hosted quite a bit of folks there. It was a good time.
Nice.
I did not tell anybody about biblical cosmology because they're not ready and they would just argue with me. So they had a good time. I had a good time. They did not realize they were actually celebrating unleavened bread with me because that was the same week.
Yeah.
But we had a good time.
Awesome.
All right. So this is, I'll set this up here. This is from my cell phone, and I'm recording this during the solar eclipse. And I'm only going to give you a little snippet here. This is right before, as we go into the diamond ring. So you don't expect this to show up if you're not, I mean, most people, there's some who are all crazy about the diamond ring, but some don't even know what it is. So this is, hopefully this works. This is my sister getting a little excited about it when it was coming along. It's about 9 seconds. Can you please tell me you heard that?
I didn't hear any audio. No.
Yeah, I didn't think you could. It was, so I'll just have to relay it. My sister is essentially yelling, "What is that? What is that?" And unfortunately, you couldn't hear it, but that's what happened as the diamond ring came into view.
Okay.
All right, so this is now some pictures with my cell phone. Sometimes I could get pictures when there's a lot of cloud cover. You could actually get a picture of it. There's kind of two cool pictures here in the top right and bottom left. They have like a halo around the sun that you saw, which is kind of neat. I'm not sure what's causing that. But you could also see the trajectory going across the sun here from my cell phone camera, which is mounted on top of on my P1000.
Okay.
All right, so this is the one that is the video evidence that shows what I had another camera set up. It was a time-lapse camera, and this is it. It's the Brino TLC 2000. You can go buy it. I attached it to my house about 3 weeks before the solar eclipse, and I just let it run. And I took pictures. I had it record every minute. So every minute it's taking a picture of the sky, which I'll show you here. and you can watch what happens all the way up to the eclipse and through the eclipse. So
Okay.
this is the camera I use. Not a big deal. It's a standard time-lapse camera that this company sells. It works. Here's my house. I mounted it up top there, right by my
Good
floodlights
spot. Yeah.
on the driveway, and you can see a little cord, which I'll zoom in here on the next slide. Whoops, wrong way. So there it is, the zoom in. So it's just fixed there. I have it zip tied in place. It's not going anywhere unless, well, we've had lots of good wind and it didn't move.
Yeah.
And there's a USB cord that I pull the date off every once in a while. And that's running down into the window of my son's bedroom right there. So I had to hijack his window a little bit, but and it's still hijacked. It's still recording data right now.
I'm sure he appreciated it. It's for science.
It's for science, and he can't really open his window now because I got the cord in there. So he's a little ticked about that, but he has another window he can open. Okay, so this is actually the view if you're looking from my camera using my cell phone. So I'll call it a standard camera, right? You can see the streets to the right. You can see kind of the horizon. It's flat. You can see my neighbor's house, which is in all these pictures you're going to be seeing. You'll be seeing the top of his house and these trees over here. This is what you'll be seeing throughout this entire time-lapse video.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a picture. Let's take a quick look at what this camera shows. So this time-lapse camera has a fisheye lens. What I mean by that is you can kind of see now at the top corners, this is my roof peak. You can see it's rounded. That's a fisheye lens, all right?
We're not on a globe? That's not proving a globe there?
That happens a lot with the GoPro cameras. They're famous for the fisheye lens.
Yeah.
And you can also see there's a curved horizon. I told you, we just saw the picture of the standard one is not curved, and my street over here is not curved either, all right? So it's okay. Fisheye lens work. In the middle, it's roughly where you'll be seeing the sun and moon traverse across the sky here. Yep. It works pretty well. So at least you just know what you're looking at. Also down at the bottom here, there's a timestamp. So this one shows March 18th. That's when I actually started recording this. Like I said, about 3 weeks before the eclipse. The bottom also has a timestamp. And unfortunately, I'm off by 42 minutes because my batteries died before I got my USB plugged in. So every camera picture that you're seeing is off by 42 minutes plus some drift. There's also, I calculated my camera itself gets off by about a whole minute every week and I have to reset it. So it's not perfect, but it can be corrected. So we obviously know that the eclipse happens exactly at 3:18, and so I can back calculate everything. It's not a big deal. And then the last thing here is this is right down the middle of the picture here. My camera's looking at 187.9 degrees south, roughly almost directly south. And this is based on the true north azimuth as defined, again, by the U.S. Naval Observatory. Okay, so now that you know what you're looking at here, let's take a look at the video that's going to show the time lapse from March 23rd through the 26th. And the reason I'm picking this time is because in Erie, Pennsylvania, we have an average of about 100 clear days a year. 265 days out of the year, it's cloudy in Erie. So when you get some clear days, you're excited.
Is it pretty chemtraily there too?
You'll see all kind of chemtrails in this video, yes. They're everywhere. I picked, it's almost like God picked this one because the reason, this is about 2 weeks before the solar eclipse. So 2 weeks before the eclipse, when the moon is new, 2 weeks before that, the moon is full. That's why I have this written down here. Full moon happened on March 25th. All right, so I'm showing you video around the time where it was going into full moon and then out of full moon. And it's kind of hard to tell from the video because it kind of washes it out, but you're seeing a full moon. Okay. The quarter moon happened on April 1st, and then new moon, which means there's no visible light from the moon, on April 8th. Okay, so that's kind of the setup here. So let's take a look at the video. See if I can get this rolling. And you can see that, right?
I can, yep.
And let's go full screen here. And this is about a 3-minute clip, and I'll just let it run so you can, again,
I'll full screen that.
There you go. All right, so like I said, it's kind of cloudy. You notice the clouds are moving away, but you can see the sun moving across the sky here, and this is on the 23rd of March. And this is what it looks like. You can see my neighbor's house there, kind of right in the middle at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
See my curved street on the lower right. Coming into nighttime now. Notice the clouds are moving away. Then note the clouds because sometimes they're coming towards you, sometimes they're moving away from you. So now we're about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. There's the moon. And it's almost full. Not quite yet. But you can notice the trajectory that the moon is on.
Yeah.
It's about the same trajectory as the sun. All right.
Almost like it's in the same gate.
It's almost like it's in the same gate. Kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Here is the next day coming up, the March 25th. Sun rises. Again, this does not happen very often in here. You can see the chemtrails. I'm not sure if you can see them, but they're everywhere. And then here comes now the clouds seem to be moving from the top left to the right. And there's the moon. And I'll show you this here in some pictures. The sun is now ticked up just a little bit. It's raising in the sky. Every day it gets a little bit higher until it reaches the peak, and then it comes back down again. So It's hard to see, but I will show it to you here in some still photographs how it moves up. All right, and now the moon though moves quite a bit differently. It is going to come across the sky a lot lower than what you saw the first time. So the first time it was a little bit higher than this. I should say a lot higher than this. Now we're kind of like 3/4 of the way down. And beautiful, beautiful clear night. There's the moon. And this is full moon. Right now you're looking at the full moon 2 weeks before the eclipse.
Okay.
Then a little bit more here will show the sun. And then you'll see the sun comes across. Roughly the same trajectory, just moved up a little bit slightly, which I'll show you here.
Yeah, it's wild how the clouds just every direction differently.
Clouds are every direction. And the chemtrails are everywhere.
Yeah. Man, oh, man.
But you can see it ticking through here.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you remember where the moon was the first 2 times, you'll notice the moon when it comes up this time, it's going to be almost in the middle coming across the screen. You see the street lights on at the bottom right.
Yeah. We got about 180 eyes watching right now, Jeremy. This is the most I've ever had on a live stream. So awesome. Thank you guys for joining. You're joining on a really neat presentation here. If you're enjoying it, please hit the thumbs up. That would be awesome. Okay, so it is in the middle there.
Yep, right. It's roughly in the middle.
A bit lower, yeah.
And then it gets cloudy, and it's basically cloudy after this for the next week and a half, and you really couldn't see anything from the sky.
Okay.
But that right there gave you a good indication of what the trajectory of the sun and the moon look like going across the sky. Every night they're a little bit different. Every day they're a little bit different, and we'll walk through that here.
So it's a good point of reference.
Yep. All right, so now let's track the sun every day up until the eclipse. So from that time I just showed you there, starting on March 24th, essentially, this is where the sun hits the middle. All right, this is March 24th. And I'm using the U.S. Naval Observatory data on the left there, which also confirms that what I'm looking at is 187.9 degrees azimuth. And you can see they say 188, but you'll notice it moves around a little bit, but it's almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
And there's your altitude. If you watch this altitude, as I click down through this altitude is going to keep rising up a little bit every day. All right, so this is March 24th. When I go to March 25th, you'll notice that the sun moves up a little bit. There, so the sun location is now up a little bit more. March 26th, it's going to move up a little bit more. And I have to estimate this sun because, again, it's cloudy. But I'll show you how I can estimate it because once the sun shows up again, you can almost back calculate where it was before. It's not hard to do. All right, March 27th, it's up a little bit more. And you can see, again, the altitude is now up to 50.7, the same azimuth. March 28th now, it's moved up. You can see the sun a little bit. Now the altitude's 51.1 degrees. March 29th, I had to estimate it again because it's cloudy, but there's the altitude, 51. March 30th, another estimation, but the altitude's moving up a little bit. Again, estimation. I told you there's a lot of cloudy days in Erie, so.
Yeah, you weren't kidding.
All right, so April 1st, we lucked out. We got a sun, and there's a lot of glare on the camera, but you can, roughly pick out the center of that glare is roughly where the sun, and I'm using that red dot as kind of like the focal point of where the sun is. The sun is really not that big. It's just, the lens glare. April 2nd, estimation, but it's continuing to move up. April 3rd, estimation, and you can see the altitude again, keeping moving up. April 4th, still estimation. April 5th, yes, I can roughly tell. If I didn't nail it right in the middle, you can see some of the sun when the clouds move out of the way, but it wasn't right in the middle. All right, so we lucked out. April 6th gave me a perfect sun. And as you can see, it's continuing to move up. April 7th, this is the day before the solar eclipse. I got a perfectly clear sky where you can see the sun moving across. So everything I just showed you now is the sun trajectory. It's every day it comes across the sky, it just ticks up a little bit more.
Yeah, just gaining some altitude,
Just gaining altitude until we're going to reach the peak here. And then it's going to hit that other gate and turn around and start coming back down. All right, so the last day here is April 8th, and it is also an estimation because unfortunately, on the solar eclipse day, it was raining in the morning. We didn't even think we would be able to see it. It cleared up just amazingly right when the sun, right when the eclipse was happening. So I did get pictures of it.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. All right, so now let's take a look at the moon's location. This really surprised me. I did not expect this in the least. The moon it moves a lot more than the sun. So the sun, again, ticks up every day. The moon, you'll see. All right, so let's start on the 24th of March. You can see the moon. I kind of showed this to you in the video. On the 25th, it's going to drop down a lot. You notice how much it dropped down?
Yeah, significant amount.
And then on the 26th, like from my screen, it's moving down almost like an inch. Here's the 26th. It drops down again quite a bit. 27th. Now, don't forget the 25th was full. And the 26th was, it's starting to wane now, but you can still see it just clear. 27th now, I had to estimate it because it's cloudy. And this estimation's a little bit tougher, but I do have some glimpses of moon occasionally here and there, not right on the middle, but I have them off to the side, and then I can use the trajectory of the moon to say, okay, it's going to end up here.
Okay.
So I got a good shot of it on the 28th. So I know it's moving down, and when I estimate it, it definitely helps. All right, there's March 29th, another clear shot of the moon. You see how much lower it is just from like 5 days earlier?
Yes.
And then March 30th, I still got a good clean shot of the moon, and April 1st is when I'm at half moon illumination. All right, so now I had to estimate it. These next couple days are going to be estimations, but it turns around. It goes down pretty low. It's like right over the top of my neighbor's house. I'm estimating here again. I'm estimating on April 2nd. Now I'm going April 3rd. I'm estimating, unfortunately. If you notice now, it's during the day.
Up. Yeah.
And it's during the day because I originally showed it to you at night. The moon takes about 45 to 55 minutes longer to traverse the sky than the sun does. That's why you get the 29 and a half days.
Yeah, she lags a bit.
She lags. Takes her 354 days to go around, not 364. All right, so April 4th, we're continuing to move up. April 5th, moving up. It kind of comes down and settles, and then kind of shoots back up again. And now I'm on April 6th, and I have to estimate, I can't actually see it because I'm almost to new moon. The illumination of the moon is so dim now that this beautifully bright sunny day, you can't see the moon. It's there if you really zoomed in on it, but the illumination is almost washed out from the sun. Okay, here's April 6th. As you see, it's now moving up, And as you can see on April 8th, you can guess it's going to step up again and be in the same exact trajectory as the sun. And there we go. So on April 8th now, the moon moved down and moved back up. So on April 8th, the sun and moon are on the same exact trajectory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
And at this point here, the moon is about 2 minutes ahead of the sun. So at some point here, I'm going to show you, the sun touches the moon and then they start to eclipse. And we'll walk through this trajectory.
Okay.
All right. So now let's talk about the sun trajectory. How did I come up with this? So think of it like this. I remember this toy when I was younger. This cable or wire that these beads move across, that is fixed. It's not random, right? I mean, if one of the beads is sliding across it, you can't come at it at a different angle. It has to slide across that that cable or the wire. And that blue line across the top is the trajectory of the sun during the eclipse. And let's walk through that. All right. So on the 24th, back to that data I showed you before, here's the sun location. You can kind of see it at the left over here. Let me give you a little point right over here. So that's right there. Now, I'm going to move forward of about 2 hours, and now the sun's right here. All right? I'm going to move forward about another 2 hours, and the sun's right smack in the middle. And I move forward another 2 hours, and the sun's over here. And I move forward another 2 hours, and he's down here. So when I lay this trajectory, that's what that blue line is. Does that make sense?
It does, yep.
That's the trajectory the sun took across the sky. And this was, again, March 24th, so I used this trajectory to create it, and I verified it matches the same exact trajectories with March 25th, which I'll show you now. So here's March 25th. I moved up a little bit. See how it moved up?
Yep.
But I had the sun so I could verify exactly where they were, and it matches perfectly. And then on March 28th, I move up a little bit more. Actually, 3 days now go by because I didn't have the sun on the 26th and 27th. I can only verify my trajectory on days I can see the sun.
Right, yeah.
And I saw it on the 28th, and this is the same trajectory again. And then now on April 7th, I had a beautiful shot on April 7th, and it's way up there. All right, so that's the trajectory of the sun. Now, I took this same exact trajectory of the sun and did it and dropped it on the moon trajectory around the same time, March 23rd, when I could see it, and it was visible and moving across the sky about the same altitude or the same position in the screen that you're seeing right now across the camera. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I can see it. This is 2 weeks before the eclipse. And 2 weeks before, again, this is almost full moon. Not quite, but it's the same height as the moon trajectory. So that's why I used the March 23rd. Again, I don't know how I got clear skies on this, but if I didn't get this data, I wouldn't be able to line these up.
Yeah.
So here's the moon. I could see it. I can still see it right there. You can see it's a cloudy night, so a lot of these, I can't even see it. Bam, there it is right smack in the middle. Over to the right now, I can see it moving over. And then as it goes off the screen, now I'm going to lay the exact same trajectory that I calculated for the sun on top of it, and it perfectly matches.
Okay. Awesome.
So that means now that the moon must match exactly the trajectory of the sun on April 8th, solar eclipse day, because if the moon passes directly in front of the sun, it has to be on that same trajectory. If it's a little bit lower, you only see half the sun cover. If it's a little bit higher, the other. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yep.
All right.
I have a sense of where you're going with this, my friend. People are loving it, man. You're building up the anticipation. Everyone's loving it in the chat here.
Good. All right. So now let's. I used the Naval Observatory data here again to kind of show you on the day of the solar eclipse, and you can see on the left side here is the sun. On the right side is the moon. And this is April 8th again. And it starts at 8 a.m. and I do like every hour. I pick out the exact location, which I'll show you here. So at the 15:18, that's total eclipse time. And then you can see the azimuth of the sun on the left is 47 degrees if you were out measuring it. and the altitude of the moon is also the same. Excuse me, the altitude, not the azimuth. And then the azimuth of the sun and moon are identical. They have to be identical at the time of the solar eclipse, or you can't have the one completely covering the other one. So
Right.
this data matches. And you can walk back up through and back down. You can see that, yes, the altitude and azimuth of these, they're not perfect because obviously, it only eclipses at exactly 318. So they're off a little bit, but it's the same trajectory. The sun and moon are on the same trajectory, almost essentially across the sky. All right?
Okay.
All right, so now let's take a quick look at the solar eclipse day. So I'm going to play you a video just like I did before of my time lapse. You're not going to see as much again because it's very cloudy, but occasionally you'll get a blip of the eclipse happening. Occasionally you'll get a little bit of sun. But I will also walk you through in the still photograph after it what it looks like. So let's play this video here.
Let me full screen this too.
Yep. And I will jump ahead here to. All right, I'm going to move us forward to. I'll do April 7th. So this is April 7th. This is the sun. Like I told you, I had a beautiful clear sky on April 7th that I could see. The trajectory of the sun going across the sky. So I know on April 8th, which gets a little more cloudy, it's the same trajectory, just a little bit higher. All right, so I'll just let this roll here a little bit. You can see the clouds doing their crazy thing. I always expected the clouds move the same way, but they don't.
Yeah. It's almost like everything above moves up above us and not us moving. Isn't that crazy?
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, we don't have this jet stream. It always goes from west to east. All right, so now we're at like 1 a.m. on April 8th. We're getting there. You're not going to see the moon because obviously the moon doesn't cross paths and it's at 0% illumination right now until the next day. So it's just a clear sky. Now you can see the sun coming up. It's about 6, 7 a.m. now. It is cloudy. There's the raindrops. It rained on us the morning of April 8th, so we're like, okay, this is terrible. We're never going to see this. Everyone came to Erie. All the hotels were completely sold out for nothing, right? But then we get a little reprieve here, and I'm just going to let it play. You can see the sun pop up every once in a while. There's the eclipse right there.
Oh, yeah.
And then it moves off.
Yeah, there's a little blip there.
A little blip. So we got one little blip there. It worked out well. Okay, now let's walk, because that was a fast and furious. Let's walk through some of the still photos here and see what we came up with.
Awesome.
All right, so this is now a trajectory comparison. So I used the same previously calculated sun trajectory. I just walked you through that, and I adjusted it a little bit higher for April 8th, and then I started laying on the points that I could see and seeing if it matched the trajectory. So here's the first point. This was at, according to the U.S. Naval Observatory, exactly at the time the eclipse begins, 76 minutes before the eclipse. And that red dot there, which you really can't see the sun because it's kind of covered in clouds, but I know it's there, because of the, as you track the sun across the sky, you can back calculate where it's at. Mm-hmm. Once you get a picture where it's at, you can back calculate where it is. All right, so now I'm going to fade this just looking at the trajectory. And that red dot is where the center of the sun is. And again, this is on 1402, 76 minutes before the eclipse begins, same trajectory. So here's the sun. And this is the moon just kissing it. This is when it just starts. If you notice, they're on that same trajectory.
Yeah. And
if I blow up the sun, that you should be able to see it. If I could see it, because the clouds are in the way, I couldn't, but that's what it would look like as it just starts to, quote, kiss the moon. All right, so now let's move on a little bit more here. So 55 minutes from the total eclipse now. I still can't see the sun, but I know it's there because, again, I can calculate it based on when I can see it. So let's fade to black here. Same trajectory, 55 minutes from it. The sun is right smack there, the red dot. And now the moon has eclipsed it because now I'm into the eclipse. I'm not total eclipse, but I'm getting there. And you can see what it looks like. Let me blow this up a little bit. That's what the sun should look like when I'm looking at it, because the sun and moon are on the same trajectory.
Right.
And if I was to take this trajectory, which I just drew at the top, and I moved it down, it won't match. This is what the Nikon P1000 I took a picture of. It's roughly the same time. As you can see, it doesn't look like the same trajectory. I moved my trajectory down from what I already calculated, and there's the white line. If I look at the trajectory of what I was taking a picture of, what they said was the moon, it's not the same trajectory.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Not at all. It's like, what, 15, 20 degrees difference?
Exactly. It's like, how is that possible? All right.
Yeah.
So let's keep moving along here. You're going to notice this, and I'll kind of go through some of these slides a little quickly because it's roughly the same thing, but I'm going to step through a little bit more time here now. So now I'm 35 minutes. Again, fade to black. There's the center of the sun. There's the moon eclipsing it. It's about that much covered because I know it exactly 15:18 or 3:18. I'm going to be total eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the sun should look like when I'm looking at it. That's what it did look like with the camera I took with the P1000. That's what the trajectory should be, but that's what the trajectory was.
Right.
Moving on, 17 minutes. Center of the sun. Moon eclipsing it. I'm almost getting close to the total eclipse here, right? 17 minutes away from the total eclipse. There is what the sun would look like if I was looking at it. It's what it should look like. That's what it looked like with my P1000. The times aren't exact. I wasn't able
Yeah,
to
you're off by a few minutes, but it's not
I'm
going
off by a few minutes, but it's roughly the same time. There's your trajectory. There's a trajectory that whatever this is out there passing in front of the sun was on. It's a different trajectory than what the moon is on.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to 6 minutes now. I'm almost in the full eclipse here. There's the sun. That's what the moon in front would be. This is what it should look like. That's what it actually looked like from my camera. There's a trajectory that it's on, should be on, and that's what the trajectory. And by the way, this red line, I'm adjusting it to make it look so it's actually moving on me. It's not always the same exact line.
Yeah.
And this is the total eclipse. So I know we blew by this picture really fast in the video, but if you take a look here, you can note the street lights. They're on in the lower right-hand corner because it was dark. It got really dark for us. It's kind of hard to tell with the camera because it adjusted for it, but
Right.
like crickets are going, like birds stopped singing, and it was
Yeah, it was eerie.
It
I
was
was
eerie.
driving my car on the highway when we had our partial eclipse here in Nova Scotia, and it just, I was just driving and I slowed right down. Everyone slowed down the highway. They made announcements on the radio. Don't stop in the middle of the road. Don't do this and that. But people were slowing down, and like, I rolled my window down, and it was eerie. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, not like Erie, Pennsylvania, but it was still eerie.
Yeah.
So now we'll fade to black here. Again, total eclipse. There's the sun. That was something completely blocking the sun. That's what it should look like. That's the picture I took. That one matches because I'm in total eclipse.
Yeah.
All right, now 3 minutes after. Fade to black. There's the center of the sun. It's now passing the moon. It's a little bit faster than the moon. And this is what it should look like if I'm looking at it. That's what it looked like from my camera. There's, again, the trajectory just dropped straight down, and that's what the trajectory this one was on.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just keep clicking through a few more here. 15 minutes go by after the total eclipse. It's passing the moon a little bit more. That's what it should look like. That was a pretty good picture I got with my P1000. Unfortunately, after the eclipse, I had to take my lens off during the total eclipse. I had the filter on my P1000 because it was taking good pictures before with the filter, but once you go into total eclipse, the filter will block everything out. It can't focus. So you had to take the filter off. And then when I went to put the filter back on, I dropped it and it's made of glass and it broke. So I didn't get very many good pictures. The only reason I got this picture was because a lot of good cloud cover. So it kind of filtered it out for me. So unfortunately, I don't have that great of pictures afterwards. All right, so 35 minutes after eclipse, now you can see that this is what the sun should have looked like. That's what it looked like with my P1000. I know it's not the greatest picture, but again, I said I didn't have a filter on it at this point.
It works though. We're understanding what we're seeing here. Yep.
I know I'm beating this to death because this is the key.
Oh, for sure. No, this is good.
All right, so now 55 minutes after, there it is. I used the time and date, yes, because I didn't have any pictures at all during this time. And the time and date is, like I told you, it was even a lot more weird trajectory than you expect, but that's what there was at that exact 16:13.
Yeah.
And then finally, this is 72 minutes after. This is when the eclipse ends. Now they're kissing each other, but on the other side. So the sun would be there, the moon would be there. That's what I should see. And this is, again, when the eclipse ends. All right. So the reason I showed you Jackson, Missouri the other day was because there was another YouTuber. A lot of people might know him, Smarter Every Day. He has like 11 million subscribers. And he had a video of him capturing, his lead up to capturing it and what he saw. So there's 3.5 million views on his video here. And the reason I'm pulling this one is because he did it all for this money picture. This picture is what he saw. He used an old school 35 millimeter camera where he just let the exposure come in he'd take a picture and then shut the exposure, but then he'd take the picture on top of the same film.
Yeah.
So you could see, this was his money picture, so to speak. And you can go to the website and watch it if you want. Go to YouTube. That's where it's listed. But the reason I'm showing this is because when I drop down here, if I lay my moons, or the sun's, what it should look like, against what I took a picture of, they almost look not identical. Perfectly, but there's my trajectories and the white line at the top. And you could even say, his trajectories are off too. So I'm not exactly sure what his trajectory was across the sky, but it kind of matches what mine was. Wow. So even, I'm just using this to verify that even his data, he was looking at this saying he saw something else. At the time of the solar eclipse, he thought he saw something pass, I don't know, some spaceship or something. He doesn't know what it was.
A Vimana flying by.
Yes. But I was just using this to show that even his money picture shows a different trajectory that what you would expect. And it was roughly the same as what I saw.
Wow,
all right.
That's so cool.
So now I'm going to show you I built a model here, and I'll show it to you in the background here a little bit. This is my model I built. And I'm going to walk you through a video how I built this. So we
got some analog here.
Yeah,
folks.
This is definitely analog. If you couldn't get the digital, I'll give you some analog here. So now let me show you a quick little GoPro video that I made that showed you how this went together. Let me see if I can get this together now.
If you guys are liking this, hit that thumbs up button. I would appreciate it, and so would Jeremy.
So I'm not sure if you can hear that video playing, Ken. Probably not. You don't need to hear it. It's just music. But this is me building this. I just used 3-inch wood balls to represent, like I show you in the background here, the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
I drilled holes straight down through them. And I used all thread there. You can see how I got the all thread in there. That's the trajectory. That all thread is the trajectory of the sun and the moon. And then I painted them here. And I'll jump ahead here. Don't really need to see the paint too much.
That's awesome, man.
All right, so now
arts and crafts skills as well.
All right, so now I went back to my computer and I had to calculate the angles. I'm trying to replicate exactly what I saw on my computer screen here. So, cutting the wood, laying it out. There's the alt thread again. The angle I just showed you guys, I calculated it to be 13 degrees, and that's what you can see at the top right there. It's kind of hard to see, but this one's only like 1 degree. So I'm trying to replicate this trajectory using the alt thread.
Yeah.
Then I had to drill the holes at that angle. I did my best with the tools that I had at the time.
This is so cool. Brother, this is awesome. Bravo. I got some shop envy, by the way. You got a nice little wood shop there.
And there's me calculating the angle. That's 13 degrees. There's my son helping me hold this and drill it.
Nice.
And there's me getting a trajectory. It's not quite right, so I had to like pull it up in the middle, so I'm mimicking the same trajectory, and there it is.
Wow. That is
and that's
cool,
the finished
man.
product. Thank you,
Super
GoPro.
cool. Super cool.
All right. So that was me building the model. That's what it looked like. And now let's go into the actual model. And the actual model, if you want to bring me back up here again, Ken, I'll kind of show this to you.
Yep. All right.
So this is a 16:9 ratio that you get from your camera. There is the sun and the moon just as they're starting to go into the eclipse, and you can see the trajectory. And I have the camera angled such that you can't see the two. As you notice, there's two alt threads that these are running on, because this will pass in front of. Right? So you can see that pass in front. And I put a little tape on there so you can kind of see how it moves, but I will walk you through without trying to pull these too much. You can see how I can now model exactly what we saw in the sky. And I took pictures of that, and I'll show you these next.
Nice. You put some serious effort into this, brother. This is awesome.
All right, so here is the model trajectory, and I'm just showing you pictures of what I had before behind me using my physical analog model, as Ken says. And I'm just going to step down through the same ones that I already showed you. Okay, so this is the same at the beginning of the eclipse. As I'm moving through the eclipse, you can kind of just focus on the white sun. This is what it should look like. As I keep stepping down through here, I'm getting a little bit closer and closer to total eclipse. I'm almost to total eclipse, and I'm moving the sun and moon across this trajectory. And now I'm in total eclipse. And I keep moving. You can see the sun starting to peek out on the right side there, and you can see a little bit more. See a little bit more. Almost out of the eclipse. And now we're out of the eclipse. Awesome. And one more little piece here. I'll just zoom in a little bit here, give you a little zoom in here, what it should look like. And this is all, the trajectory again is showing you what the sun should look like if I'm standing on the ground looking at it and there was a moon passing in front of the sun that would block it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, sir.
Now I'm in total eclipse. And you can see there are two alt threads there, right? You can kind of see it in the back.
You can see it, yeah.
Now we're keeping moving along here. And we're out almost of eclipse. And there you go. Awesome. Okay. That is pretty much my presentation, Ken. I do have one final question from my son that he posed this. And I wasn't even thinking about this because my mind has already flipped to biblical cosmology, so I wasn't even thinking about the heliocentric model. But he says, if the sun is, quote, fixed in the sky and the earth rotates clockwise with its moon, why didn't we see the moon overtake the sun? It was exactly opposite of what we saw.
Yeah.
Because what we saw was the sun overtake the moon. So I'll let you ponder that one.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
And
awesome, brother. Yeah, that was spot on.
Still is not quite on to biblical cosmology yet. He's hanging on by his fingernails. But thanks for watching. If you have any questions, there's my email address. You can email me. So it was fun putting this together. I hope you enjoyed it. And I guess if
Absolutely,
you want to
brother.
take some questions, we can do that too.
Yes. Folks, if you have any questions for Brother Jeremy, please put them in all capitalization and we'll pull them up. I did set one question aside earlier from a guy or girl called Foodhead. Where did it go? Okay, this one right here. Wouldn't a change in position from the house to the driveway account for angle differential?
Well, I'm not changing any position. My camera's fixed. So there is no angle. My camera is angled with the horizon or my driveway, if you want to look at it that way, and it doesn't move. It never moved. And I showed you all the video as it's going across. So yes, the trajectories and the sun and moon move across the sky, but the angle of my camera is fixed. It never moved.
Yeah. And even when you had pulled up the other individual's video or whatever, the snapshot, there was a slight differential in from his angle of position to yours, right? But it was still relatively similar and should have been much different, even if it was the actual moon itself that was doing it, because of the trajectory that you showed. He will see a slightly different.
He saw a slightly different trajectory than I saw, and I've seen pictures of other people, and depending on where you're looking at it, the trajectory always changes. So, but if you're and again, from the data I recorded at my location, I showed you walking through what the trajectory should look like at my location with that camera fixed. It didn't move.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. We got another question here. Can you overlay the trajectory of the object that did pass across the sun?
So let me see if I can do this. I will try this. I should have showed this to you before, but this is the trajectory of what did pass in front of the sun. And that's this red line again. It kind of goes like this. And I'm not going to move the sun because it's a little bit hard to do, but the trajectory I showed you the entire time was almost at this angle here. And you can see,
and it almost goes like it changes its trajectory rather rapidly as it's going across the sun. Like it almost goes north really quick. You know what I mean?
By the time you get to here, it starts to move off at this angle. It did change its trajectory a lot, and you could tell that with a lot of the pictures I took. So it's physically impossible for it to come this way when the trajectory is this way.
Yeah. So I wonder. So what are we surmising here, brother? What is that other object you're holding potentially? What are we thinking about that?
My recommendation is go watch Sean Gerson's Investigating Babylon series.
Yes.